I'm Lee, and this is my podcast about my handmade life. I'm on Instagram as louleigh_, and Ravelry is louleigh, and I have an Etsy shop where I sell knitting bags and needle cases, which is shop louleigh, but you can find links to all of my online places at louleigh.com. I was about to start this week by saying it's been a really good week, but after the events in Manchester on Monday, the bombing, I don't know, it's difficult to make sense of things like that. And I think if you were affected by that, then I hope that you have all of the love and care and support that you need. I'm not coming to you from 2015 this week, and I have eradicated bones from the factory, so my hairy chums are over there on the couch sleeping. If you watched last week, you would have seen that I have recently rearranged the factory, and this is my old guild form table that I used for a really long time. I got it when I was in London, and I really love it, and it doesn't really have a place in our home anymore, but I can't bring myself just to take it to the charity shop. It's like I want to lovingly rehome it to someone who's into sort of like kitsch 50s furniture. However, I didn't make that, so that's not really what the podcast is about. Yeah, well, it has actually been quite a good week since I saw you last. I went to Guild on Saturday, the Weavers, Spinners and Dyers Guild, and we had the most brilliant talk from Kate Chaplin of, what's her business name? Let me have a look. Got it here, of Japan Crafts, and she had bought along textiles from some of her collections for us to have a look, and she was so knowledgeable and interesting. It was a really great talk. If you have a guild near you and you're interested in weaving, spinning and dyeing, I really recommend that you check out the program, because we have about 6 speakers a year, and they're so interesting. It's really good fun, and it's just good fun to go and, I don't know, commune with your people. But anyway, today I am wearing my Castra shawl, which I have finished a couple of weeks ago. I blocked it last week, so yeah. So this was some hand spun of mine. I spun it using some Corridale fibre, which was hand dyed by John of Easy Knits, and I used a fractal spinning technique, which is a way of managing the colours to kind of get a really subtle sort of gradient stripe. And hopefully I've put in a little video of me holding it up here so you can see what that looks like. But I thought that the Castra, I got that right? Castra pattern really showed off that gradient, and it was also easy to adjust, so I could use up every little last bit of yarn that I had. Actually, I had a little leftover which was a bit finer. I think it was my sort of starting experimental section that I had plied up, and it was a bit finer than the rest of the yarn, and I actually bound off with that, and that actually worked out quite well because the bind off is really unobtrusive and fine. So I'm really pleased with it, but it's quite hot. I'm going to leave it on for the sake of the podcast, and then whip it off when I've finished. I hung up a net curtain in the hopes, I'm not really big into net curtains, but I hung one up in the hopes that there would be less glare on my glasses, and it's not working at all. I thought I would show you my finished sock. I have one sock. I I've made this to fit my medium size sock blocker. It doesn't have a recipient at the moment. Eventually someone who fits it will turn up to our house, and well, I should knit another one so I can gift it to them. But this is for the Stash Appreciation Society Spring Challenge. And the challenge was to use 3 different yarns from your stash. And this is Hazelnut's Artesian sock that I used for my Exploration Station shawl. And the pattern, I said last week, is really good fun. It's the Mix-a-Lot pattern by Rachel Coopy. So I have one sock. I haven't cast on the other sock. I'm going to London for an extended weekend this evening, so I shall take it with me and see if I can crank out a sock over the weekend. The last thing I've been working on this week is my quilt top. I can't remember the last time you lot saw this. It was ages ago. It's definitely been kind of an extended project. I find it like with garment sewing, it's like a series of short sprints, you know. You cut out and then you're doing seams and pressing and yeah. But with making quilts, it's like back-to-back marathons. It's epic cutting out and epic sewing and epic pressing. So yeah, it's a bit of a different sort of experience. And the other thing is I feel like I need to be much more accurate in terms of getting all my points and things to match up. Hopefully while I'm rabbiting on about this, I have edited in some footage so you can see the whole thing. This flying geese pattern was something that I saw on YouTube on a video from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. And I've talked about it before. Making the blocks was like magic with the way that you do it. But I think I mentioned last time that because all of the fabrics are on the bias, when you're sewing, the blocks actually have quite a lot of stretch and give to them. When I say on the bias, I mean that the pieces are cut horizontally, diagonally across the cloth, not horizontally or vertically, and that gives fabric. Can I show you? Have I got some? Here we go. Here's a piece. So I fold this little square diagonally. You can see that suddenly it becomes quite stretchy. And it just makes it that little bit more difficult to keep all your squares square. And this is only my second quilt, and I hadn't anticipated this bias issue, and so it just made it that little bit more difficult, and I might not have done quite as brilliant of a job as I would have liked, but it's my second quilt, so that's okay. The other thing that I'm not all that happy about is the colour that I used for the sashing. Firstly, I thought that I had wanted to try and get this grey with the sort of cross hatching on it there. I thought that would have been really nice. But of course there weren't many people that were... I originally got the jelly roll from the US. The jelly roll was left over from another project that I did. And there weren't many people in the UK who actually had this line of fabrics, let alone a decent sort of selection of them. And so I ended up with this kind of crosses and zeros thing. And if you work with fabric a bit, you'll know that the pattern can kind of skew as it's printed. And so when you see the whole of these edgings, the lines aren't straight. It's sort of, the pattern kind of works away, and yeah, so it's okay, and you know, but it wouldn't have been my first choice of edging. I had quite a few bits left over, just odds and ends. As I said, I'd already used the jelly roll for another project, and so I kind of had short bits and pieces. But the nice thing was that I actually have enough of the strips left to so I've sewn them all together, and I've got enough to actually bind the whole quilt, so that will be quite fun. At least I'm quite happy that I've got matching fabric to be able to do that. And then I'm really liking this because I'm using up absolutely every last bit of the fabric, so that's really exciting. Then I found some black fabric in my stash, and I thought I would just piece it together with some of the leftover squares to use on the back. And so I don't need to buy as much yardage to go on the back of the quilt. But next time I'm near a shop that has fabric, actually if I'm going to London, I wonder if there's any, do you know of any good quilting shops in London? If you're from that way and you know somewhere, then let me know. Yeah, so I don't need quite as much yardage to go on the back of my quilt. What I didn't realise though is that the back actually needs, I knew it needed to be a bit bigger, but I hadn't realised how much bigger the back needed to be from the front. And so I haven't made this quite wide enough, so I'm just going to slice it open and put some more fabric down the middle. But actually I should take this to London with me so I can find, maybe I'll get a different colour fabric that works in with the other colours that I've got there. We shall see. I'll put that aside to take with me. The last thing with this is that I was watching the Brooklyn Knit Folk tutorial on how to make your quilt sandwich, and I don't have anywhere in my house. It's not, this is not a very big quilt, but we live in, I don't know, it's not, for Britain it's not a small home, but it's only 50 square metres, and there's not really anywhere that I can lay out a piece of fabric that big and get it really flat and taut. And so I've been on YouTube investigating ways of making the quilt sandwich with the batting and the backing in the front without having to spread the whole thing out on the floor. And I found a couple of videos, but if you're a quilter and you have a favourite way of putting your quilts together without having to stretch them out all in one big area, then I'd really like to hear from you. That would be really helpful. So that's all I've got to talk to you about today. Thank you for coming along and sharing a cup of coffee with me now that I'm micro podcasting. Is it a vlog if you don't have sort of like footage of yourself walking along? I'm not sure. Is it a podcast? Is it a blog? It's not a blog. It's a vlog. Or is it? Who knows? Anyway, it's been lovely to share my morning cup of coffee with you. And I hope you'll pop over to the Ravelry group and join in the Stash Appreciation Society. If you're taking part in the Spring Challenge, don't forget to put your finished objects into the thread before the end of May. And hopefully I shall see you next week. Bye! I'm back because I have a postscript. I know that there are quite a few new subscribers who are waiting for knitting needle cases because you've seen them on the Grocery Girls podcast and on Little Bobbin's podcast and on Molly's A Homespun House vlog. And so I just wanted to let you know that I am going to be making needle cases next week, and and you'll get more information about that in the newsletter. So if you're interested in a needle case, then please pop over to louleigh.com and join the newsletter. And I will also be putting out a shout out for custom cases. So yes, join the newsletter if you're interested in that. And I've actually got the fabric sitting right here and I'm so excited. They're really cute. I'll show you my favourites. This one is my favourite one. So yeah, keep an eye on the newsletter if you're interested in needle cases. Thank you very much.